In this chapter, we're going to be delving into composition, and we're going to talk about how just changing your perspective can give you endless new subjects to paint.
Composition is the combination of elements to create the whole. So in painting, this is more than just your subject. It's where your subject sits in the frame, its relationship to other objects, and even the way a background interacts with the subject. You can use these composition tips by arranging still life objects and create lots of inspiration for new ideas to paint.
Today, I'm using this still life that I've set up. I love working from life because I think every time I see a plant or a flower that is in person, I get a new perspective of it. It can be a bit intimidating if you're working from life and you're not used to painting. There is a lot to take on board when it's three-dimensional. I've made these two separate arrangements here, just varying in height and colour a little bit. But don't feel like you have to do huge arrangements. You don't need to go crazy at all with it. Just having one single flower can be enough to keep you going for weeks of inspiration. The way that you can achieve that is just by turning it. Just turn it. I mean, that would keep me going. I could make weeks worth of art just from this one flower, going closer, looking at it from further away, just the head of the flower, with the stem, without the stem, snipping it, pulling off petals, just painting a petal, or the very center of the flower on its own. So don't feel like you need to go crazy with tons and tons of flowers. You can get a lot from just one.
So at this point, you've been inspired and you've observed different flowers, but you're really not sure how that translates to the page.
You don't know what you're going to be painting or what it will look like. So let's talk about how we can figure that out, or just give ourselves a little bit of an idea before we dip our paintbrush into the paint. A little exercise that I do before I start a group of paintings or just one painting is coming up with a few ideas for myself based on what we just talked about, right? So what I like to do is just draw these out and then think about different layouts for each. So let's say I'm going to be basing this on a poppy, just the poppy on its own. Maybe the first one that I do is going to fill, the face of the flower is going to fill the whole canvas. And maybe there's just another little one just poking in there. Second one, maybe it's all about the stem and just a little bit about the face of the flower. And it's also really helpful to think at this time when you're looking at your thumbnails about negative space. And what does that mean? Negative space is really just what you have around the subject matter, right? So barely any negative space here. The negative space is just what's left here. So the area that I'm colouring in is the negative space in this painting. If drawing isn't your thing, there's another way around that. I took some pictures with a Polaroid camera, and what I love about this is I've got this really blurry image, and actually it doesn't look a lot like what's in front of me. It's almost a painting in itself, and that's wonderful. If you don't have a Polaroid camera, just use your phone. Let's have a look at our little Polaroid thumbnail here, and you can just line these up instead of doing drawings. Pin them to your wall and create a little gallery that will inspire you later on. I like to try changing the background of my still life. And the way that I'm going to do that is just by adding in a sheet. You could use like a bed sheet, you know, in a colour, or get some paper from an art store. And I like to just take a photo of this composition on different coloured backgrounds, just to change up how each flower looks. Just changing the background colour will make a huge difference to what you're going to be seeing. So that's a nice place to start. Just to get a different perspective, instead of having our paper behind the flowers, I'm going to pop it down on the table and we're going to lay the flowers onto it. It's a whole nother way of looking at things. So let's pull out one of these gorgeous poppies. lay it down. Oh, that colour really sings against the blue, and we've got a little bit of shadow, which is nice. Let's take just a tossed head. Look at these beauties. And they're all at different angles. This is a really nice way to get a ton of information before your flowers pass on. And you can use all of these images that you capture with your phone and use them later on. So get like 100 of these if you want to, while you've got all these lovely flowers. And let's have a look, you know. Maybe that's my capture. Click. And then maybe I move them so they're all together. A bit more negative space. So I just play around with these, change the direction, add in something else. Let's just chop this guy down, add him into the mix. It's, again, like you could just get so many different layouts just by doing this, and it's so fun as well. Let's have a look at them on the white background. So just taking them off and seeing the difference, which is huge, just changing that background colour. Or you could use textured backgrounds, you know, paint a background and then lay your flowers on top. Oh, see, now I can see all the furry kind of edges on these poppies on the white, and I'm getting a different coloured shadow, which is lovely as well. Same thing again, maybe higher up, and you've got another composition. So really just play around with the flowers that you have. Try and think outside the box of like just a still life. Lay them down, chop them up, and just, again, continue to play. In this chapter, we've had a look at all the different ways that you can figure out your compositions. And sometimes it's as simple as moving a single flower in a vase to the left or to the right.